Hi, I'm Jamie Schessler, and I'm speaking on the behalf of the Affirmative for National Common Core Standards. The Common Core Standards provide opportunity for United States students to become competitive international citizens. These standards are consistent for English and math per grade level to keep each state achieving at proximal levels. This allows teachers to make their own lesson plans under their discretion for their appropriate classes, but sets the same goals throughout each state. These goals also make it easier to track student progress throughout their education and also ensures readiness for college or workforce entry. A few definitions that are needed to understand would be Common Core, which is a rigorous set of standards for the English language arts and mathematics curriculum that has been developed based on the best practices of schools and organizations around the country and throughout the world. These are a culmination of extended, broad-based effort to fulfill the charge issued by the states to create the next generation of K-12 standards in order to ensure all students are college or career ready no later than the end of high school. College readiness is the combination of skills, knowledge, and habits of mind necessary to fully participate in college-level courses. These would be courses considered at the 100 level and above. International benchmarking refers to analyzing high-performing education systems and identifying ways to improve your own system based on those findings. One of the ways to analyze the education systems is to compare these international assessments. So we would really like to increase the readiness of college and workforce. Since 2009, 48 states combined their best educational experts and government officials to design these K-12 standards to basically just improve the readiness for college. These set guidelines but do not dictate to teachers specifics. With the standards, there are clear expectations and easy to track the progress of these expectations. And this really just focuses on proficiency in English and math. These involve critical thinking, problem solving, and analysis skills. The standards will promote equity for student education throughout the United States because often we see comparison between, say, Mississippi, which is the worst performing school system, and Massachusetts, which is the best performing school system. So with these standards, there will be equity throughout the United States. Common Core standards set by a wide arrangement of educational experts should be implemented in all publicly funded schools to ensure college or workforce readiness, track progress of students' achievement levels, and create globally competitive students. These standards set clear, concise expectations of what should be taught, but allows teachers to create and modify their individual lessons for the most success in their classrooms. This modern system instills college readiness in each student despite income, region, or personal circumstances. I now stand for questioning.
You consistently reinforce that teachers will be able to make their own lessons plans, but I have a question. My question for you is, how would teachers tailor their lessons plans to each individual class, each individual student, when they're hindered by these guidelines at all times? From what I understand, the Common Core standards provide prepackaged material in many cases to teachers.
Basically, I can give you an example of a standard that is just within the Common Core. For English would be analyze how particular elements of a story or drama interact. So with this, we could see teachers, English teachers, picking from any wide range of literary narrated works. So I think that this provides a lot of discrepancy to the teacher.
You stated earlier that, is it true that one of the main focuses of this program is for college readiness?
It is. I can tell you that the 2005 ACT test showed that only 51% are prepared for college readiness, especially in reading. Also, 28% of students entering college need remediation in math English, and writing. So these skills, these Common Core standards are really to improve these skills.
You mentioned earlier the education systems in Massachusetts and Mississippi. You stated that Massachusetts is one of the best and Mississippi is one of the worst. And then you went on to speak about equality in education systems. In raising Mississippi's education, implementing these standards, how do you prevent lowering Massachusetts to get them to the same level?
That is a very big issue that they face with these Common Core standards, but it is said that if the state is already higher achieving than these core sets, while they still have to cover these CSOs, no state will be asked to lower. But rather we want to raise those bottom states up to match with those, and maybe even raise those standards to compete with countries like Singapore, Japan, Korea, and all of the high achieving countries we see now.
Hello, my name is Grant Briers, speaking against the implementation of Common Core curriculum standards in the United States education system. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of the negative. I'd first like to start out by defining a few key terms for you that Jamie's already mentioned. First of which is core curriculum, and core curriculum is a curriculum in which all or some of the subjects or courses are based on a central theme in order to correlate the subjects to the theme. In the Common Core Standards Initiative case, that theme would be college readiness and career preparation. The Common Core Standards Initiative is an education initiative in the United States that details what K-12 students should know in English, language arts, and mathematics at the end of each grade. The initiative is sponsored by the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers, and seeks to establish consistent education standards across the states, as well as to ensure that students graduating from high school are prepared to enter credit-bearing courses of 2- or 4-year college programs or enter the workforce. With the job market and economy becoming increasingly global, it's become a worldwide competition to produce the most well-educated students, a competition in which the United States has fallen behind other nations. This has led the United States to take action, even if it's not the most effective action, in order to say that it did something to improve the education system rather than it did nothing. The action they've chosen is an ineffective Common Core Standards Initiative. I intend to prove that the Common Core Standards Initiative is not only counterproductive to education advancements, but is a piece of legislation that significantly erodes state control over education, hinders the teacher's ability to teach, creates a set of standards that are far from rigorous, and was passed by the states essentially by bribery in the form of federal funds. The implementation of Common Core Standards is detrimental to the future of education in the United States. The initiative is geared more towards career preparation than educational advancement. It was modeled after other countries rather than being uniquely designed by Americans, and engages in a one-size-fits-all approach to education that is simply impractical. Common Core finds a middle ground by nationalizing education. In some states, the standards will be an improvement, but in others, it will drastically decrease their standards of education. As Jamie mentioned earlier, for Massachusetts and Mississippi to become on the same level, you have to raise Mississippi while lowering Massachusetts by putting them on these same standards. The Obama administration's Race to the Top program essentially bribed states into enacting these standards with $4.35 billion in federal funds. They either had to enact these standards or they received no funds. States literally had no option, either to keep their education system running as it is and enact these standards or not receive the federal funds from the government. Rather than being approved by Congress or state officials, they were signed off on a state executive level in order to receive the dangling carrot, so to speak, of the Race to the Top program. The standards revolve more around competition among other nations than a genuine desire to create reform that will improve education and is tailored specifically to the United States. The government cares more about excelling among other countries and having our citizens look better than actually advancing the education system. They just want to look better for themselves. The standards take away from teachers' ability to teach. Common Core standards provide set lessons plans in many cases, reading lists, and assignments for higher order thinking, but in reality, they eliminate a teacher's ability to tailor lessons plans in many cases to their individual classroom by providing this preset material. They focus on a flooding of information to students in order to outperform the students of other countries, and that will lead to an extinction of creativity. This is it's continually emphasized about college readiness. How do you get into college? You pass those standardized tests. So therefore, it's just going to be focused on a mass flood of information. Regional diversity can't be accounted for in these standards. Unique classes like West Virginia history in this state would fall by the wayside to other initiatives. States are almost forced to adopt these standards because without the federal funding, their education system would collapse entirely. Teaching would no longer require innovation with these standards. They would already have what they have to teach and how they have to teach it. More gifted students would be forced into mediocrity, and teachers have to focus more on meeting these standards to keep their job than focus on teaching. Teaching is never quantifiable.
So, Grant, I would like to say, first you suggested that these Common Core were ineffective. Now, do you still believe that they're ineffective even after going through the countries that have used these and how they're still outperforming the United States?
I think that a lot of where you're seeing the outperformance is on a standardized test, but you can never measure every aspect of education. The purpose of education is to inspire a thirst for knowledge, and education should never end. You should continue to educate yourself throughout your life, and by implementing these standards, you're constricting students to just learning this mass amount of information to perform better on standardized tests, rather than instilling a thirst for knowledge and creativity. And creativity is what creates the innovations of our time. Creativity creates the great literary works, the great new business models, and things such as that. And creativity is going to fall by the wayside with these standards.
So while you say that they are ineffective, while these standards have not been completely adopted, they have been adopted by 44 states, 4 territories, DC and Department of Education Defense in the form of military bases. Now, you say that these are ineffective, but they have not fully been implemented in the United States until 2014-2015 school year, so I'm just unsure on that.
The premise behind them is ineffective. The goal is great. It's behind it. I think there's a genuine goal to improve our education system, but I think it's taking the wrong steps to do so. It's focusing more on college readiness and career preparation when it needs to be instilling that thirst for knowledge. And every state is different, regional diversity and things like that. Different students are going to respond differently.
Right.
And you can't place a one-size-fits-all education on something. It may work in other departments in the U.S. government, but that's a bureaucratic organ.
Another point you made were things such as West Virginia studies. Now, I'd like to know where this applied into the Common Core standards, since Common Core was based in English and mathematics.
The Common Core would take away from opportunities for teachers to teach things like that, because it's going to focus so heavily on meeting these test scores and these higher thinking skills and things like that. There's not going to be room in the budget or the classroom time to teach classes like West Virginia history, which are really a great aspect of our state in particular.
So some of the characteristics of the Common Core are focused, just deeper, rigorous, and relevant content, and applicable knowledge through higher order 21st century thinking skills, which we see in our classrooms at Calvin Midland already. Rigor, complex, and challenging that are aligned with college and work expectations, which play into the college readiness. Coherence, which is an orderly progression, clear, consistent, and understandable. And fluency. This is proficient and automatic. This is actually taken from the California standard sites, which California and Massachusetts have proven to be the 2 highest achieving states in the United States when it comes to K through 12 education, and California is very optimistic about these Common Core standards since they played a big role into developing them. Now, going along with that, since 2000, each state has had their own standards, which is not consistent throughout the country. So these 2009 national standards were drafted for clear and concise achievements. These were incorporation of the National Education Association, American Federation of Teachers, National Council of Teachers of Mathematics and English, and also with chief state school officers and the National Governors Association from all 50 states. Before implemented, that will be fully implemented in 2014-2015, 44 states, 4 territories, DC, Department of Defense Education have all adopted the Common Core. These guidelines are research and evidence-based, they're clear, understandable, and consistent. They're based off of strength of current state standards, and no state will have to lower their expectations. They're basically off the strengths, the highest of each set time, each set period from that state. They're informed on 2 top scoring countries, and these expectations are aligned with college success and work rigor. So this outline will set goals, but again, it does not specify. An example I listed to Grant earlier on English would be analyze particular elements of a story or drama for English, and for math, use data from a sample survey to estimate a population mean or proportion.
Some of the major issues with this program are, first of all,